really, to be honest with everyone, you're never going to feel ready. And so for the people that are looking for that little boost of a jump, it's like, why not now? And then write down the list of why not, and then actually look at if there are these facts that are getting in your way, or are they limiting beliefs that you have? And I'll just fast forward it to you. They're all limiting beliefs where your thoughts in your brain get in your way of doing what is right for you.
Hi, Chris. Welcome to the Maffeo Drinks podcast.
What's up, Chris? Happy to be here.
It's a great honor. I was just telling you that I'm, celebrity struck here because it's, I've been following your journey since early 2020, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Back when, B2B revenue vitals used to be called the state of demand gen. And you inspired me to launch the Maffeo Drinks podcast. So I think all the listeners should be thankful to you because you are the guilty one or the one to be thanked for.
Well, you're welcome, everyone. But really, it's all you. I might have been the little spark for you, but doing 100 episodes is a massive feat of discipline and consistency and passion and a lot of other things that are clearly inside of you. And I think that celebrating that as well is good.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. And it was funny because I remember when I started putting all the episodes, I took the inspiration from your numbering episodes. And I remember when I put the 001, and I was thinking like, why am I putting 001? It doesn't make any sense. It's just like episode 1. But then I said, no, because this is the signal that I'm going to hit the hundreds of it, and I want it to be consistent when it hits the hundreds. So that's why, like, I'm so happy to celebrate it with you and all the listeners.
I love that.
So let's talk about you. This is going to be a quite an interesting episode. I mean, a very interesting episode, but also quite different from the various that I'm doing, because you're not from the drinks industry as such. But you're a serial entrepreneur. You have launched and bootstrapped so many companies, and I want to pick your brain on advices for actual founders, which is a lot of the listeners of this podcast, but also people that maybe want to make the jump from a big corporations to launching their own brands and becoming entrepreneurs and so on. So let's start. I mean, you've done. I mean, I call it built bottom up, in my language, but basically means bootstrapping. So, what are the biggest learnings for you on bootstrapping your companies?
I mean, at its highest level, I think that there's somewhere between like 1% and 5% of businesses today that are appropriate to raise some type of venture capital funding. However, 95% of founders think they need it, right? So 95% of founders think they need it. Only max 5% of businesses are really appropriate for it. And you have this total mismatch, which leads to a ton of businesses getting funded that don't have the market cap or the market size or any type of need for that type of funding. It also leads to this level of thinking for entrepreneurs that, I'll build my business when I get funding. It's like, no, actually, you could build it right now. Like you could do it. And you have a thought in your brain that, I need $2 million in funding in order to get this idea off the ground. And maybe that idea was right in 2011 or 2014, but it's definitely not right now. There's also just the way that digital environment works. Like you don't have to raise from venture capital. You can do friends and family. You can do a lot of other creative financing things. And then lastly, I'll say, like, if you want to build a tech product or some product that requires some type of capital investment up front, that you can deliver some type of service or something like that as a method to cash flow and build the funding to fund your own product. Let's do an example, okay? Let's say you're a fitness trainer, right? You're a fitness trainer and you want to build a digital app that like does fitness training because you think that'll be more scalable than just training, 8 people a day in a gym. And you're like, but I don't have the $100,000 to build the app, so I guess I'll just never do it, right? You could just build a in-person training business where you have 7 trainers that train your clients that build this revenue, and all of a sudden in 3 months you have $100,000 to then go and build your thing, and now you have two independent, strong businesses at the same time. I just think that people need to get out of their own way and stop thinking. It's like almost the thoughts in your head that are like, I can't build the business without funding, or I'll build my business when I have X amount of money. That's one that a lot of people do, which prevents them from just jumping. I started my business with $3,000 in the bank and
Wow.
$60,000 in student loan debt. And did I feel ready? No. Was I financially ready? No. Would I have chosen it for myself? No, I got pushed into it. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. It literally was. There's a lot of really good things that have happened in my life, so it's hard to say what is the best, but that was a real top one for me of going there when I didn't think I was ready. And to be honest with everyone, you're never going to feel ready. And so for the people that are looking for that little boost of a jump, it's like why not now? And then write down the list of why not, and then actually look at if there are these facts that are getting in your way, or are they limiting beliefs that you have? And I'll just fast forward it to you. They're all limiting beliefs where your thoughts in your brain get in your way of doing what is right for you.
This is very interesting because I mean it's a little bit like I discussed it with one of my best friends, Francesco, which is a photographer now, and we're always talking about like buying all the fancy gears. When you want to be, you want to become a photographer, and then you think that you need the expensive camera and all the lightings and all the thing. And it was the same thing when I launched my podcast. To be honest,
Same for me.
I mean, I'm still recording in my home in my studio, but I remember when I bought the first fancy mic, and then in the end I was like, I could have bought the cheapest mic, and I was eluding myself, like that was kind of like a procrastination
Hmm.
thing. And then I just said, you know what, I just go and I just hit record, and the first one will be bad, and then let's see. So it's very interesting also what you're saying about taking side, the kind of like adjacent businesses that may fund the journey, because
Hmm.
you could launch a drinks brand by being a consultant for other things, and then at some point you build like the drinks business, but like you're building the funding without having to be there. And you're speaking from from a good place, because I mean, back when you launched, that was the glory days of VC and easy capital, easy money, in 2019 and so on, but you still
29, yeah,
decided
yeah.
not to go for it.
I mean, yeah, if you think back to it, it was probably 2017, and then it accelerated into the crash in end of 21. And at that point, like, it was cool to say you raised a $10 million seed round. A lot of people still think it's cool. And when I read it now, I'm like, wow, you just dug yourself a huge fucking hole, because you have 3x preferred returns on that. And so let's say you have 300 or 500,000 ARR, right? And then you raise that valuation. You need to sell the business for $30 million in order to pay your investors their preferred returns before you make a dollar. So that's like one thing. Another thing is that now that you're on the train, most likely you're going to be on the train forever. So as you keep raising more funding and more stuff, that preferred return number keeps going up. And I think that people have seen it for so long as the only option of how you build a business, or especially businesses that require some type of capital investment up front in terms of software development, or you're building something that requires some big machine or manufacturing or whatever. And so it becomes this thing that basically, like, over time, you create this jail for yourself and slowly give away your business.
And also, like, sorry to interrupt, like
Hmm.
the interesting thing here is that it's kind of like a catch 22, no? Because very often it's people that want to set themselves free by leaving a corporate job, or by doing something on their own, but then basically they just get themselves another job with another boss, because it's basically like like who gave them money.
Hmm.
It's they need to report into that person now. So it's a kind of like a counterintuitive thing, and people think they have to do it rather than actually like exploring what are the different options, right?
Yeah, and just to be clear, you can bootstrap your company and own 100% of it or majority share, and still feel like you're trapped in a jail. Like, and what are you trapped in a jail then? Like, maybe you don't have freedom over your time. Maybe you don't have freedom over which clients you choose, because you have to keep paying the bills. Maybe you don't have freedom around where you are in the world, or the people that you spend time with, or all these other types of freedom that come outside of financial freedom that I've been studying a lot like the past 6 months for me, because money is not it. Money helps. Money can be a good thing, but what I find when I interact with a lot of people is, especially entrepreneurs, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that have a lot of money that aren't happy, that don't have that like struggle in there, like with their wife or husband, because they pour all their energy and effort into this business that sucks their energy, and then all of a sudden they can't be a good partner for someone. They don't have time. They can't take a vacation. They can't go on a date, like whatever it is. And that's for entrepreneurs. It's also for people that work in a 9 to 5 or work at Goldman Sachs and make $400,000 for Goldman Sachs and work 16, 18 hours a day and are on this hamster wheel doing that, and their lifestyle and their expenses go up because they have the $10,000 penthouse in Manhattan, and all of a sudden, like, they're making $400,000 living paycheck to paycheck. And like,
Yeah.
I say these things because I've done all of them, right? I'm not coming from some place of like, look at these people, look at me, how good I am, look at all these people. No, I've lived all these different lives, and it's just generally not fulfilling.
And this is very interesting because I think about this all the time, no? When you even myself, because I remember, I used to be in corporate, and then at some point I saw that, my earnings, like my salary was growing. And then I thought, like, I always explain it as I jumped off the train. I felt that this train was leading to a direction that I didn't want to. And then at some point I said, I better jump off here than wait for the next stop, because I just build on an infrastructure of goods and things and physical things, and I don't want that. And then back then, at that time, my daughter was born, and other family reasons. So, but then sometimes you enter this vicious circle, because then I'm often the guy that never switches off,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't see my friends because I'm going on a roll on working because I love what I'm doing, and
Mm-hmm.
because I'm building something for the future. And so it's also like a bit of a reflection moment, no, to with you, to say how to do it sustainably now, because sometimes I listened to some of your latest episodes where you said, like, you just came back from holidays, and for the for one of the first times that you took a few weeks off, no, and sometimes you feel, I cannot take weeks off because the world will collapse if I take 3 weeks off. But the world is still here, right?
Yeah, I think that clarity creates speed. So if clarity creates speed and speed is the actual outcome, then what creates clarity? And so if you think about it, alignment, what I found for myself, alignment with myself and my purpose is what creates clarity. And how do I create alignment with myself? Is by like eliminating all of these like programmed, conditioned beliefs that are in me. Like, I need to have some great car to be cool, right? Or like, I need to suffer in order to be successful. Or like, I'm not good enough until my business does 5 million or 10 million or 100 million, or you name the number, it doesn't matter. And when you eliminate these beliefs and then you have clarity on what you're trying to do, then you realize that 80 or 90% of the shit you do doesn't matter. And you're just doing stuff to do stuff, right? I used to think that it was productive to sit in front of a laptop for 12 hours a day and just do stuff. And now I get 10 times more done by just doing like 3 or 5 things a day that are the actual things that matter. It could be one phone call. It could be like putting one person in charge of something. It's actually, and it comes down to like just having this, removing all these things that get in the way of you making the right decisions for yourself. It's really what it comes down to. And so over time, as I've been able to, I mentioned some of the ones that are like, were real for me, right? I'm not good enough until my business does X, or I need to suffer to work, which is totally just stupid. And when you break it down, what I've realized is that like, business is just one little compartment in your life, right? And you have all these different compartments in life. And like, so your life, the box that holds all these different compartments, should be effortless, not hard. When you listen to yourself and you follow what you already know, and you clear all these things that are getting in the way of scarcity mindsets and guilt and shame and conditioned beliefs, and dare I say, like alcohol and drugs and other things that get in your way. Like, when you get all that stuff out of the way, then you can just you can just move fast and you can do these. It literally feels effortless. And I say this from a place knowing that people that listen to this podcast are like, oh yeah, easy for you to say, bro. You've built 4 businesses and you have a bunch of money. It must be easy for you to say. And I can say right back to them, I was the most financially wealthy of my life in the peak of 2022 on paper. And at the same time, I was the least happy and felt the least free. The people that are thinking that, that is your reaction based on conditioned programming of like, yeah, like if I had $10 million, I'd be happy too. And let me tell you, I've been there before, and it's not a guarantee that you'll be happy. There's a lot more to life than money, and money matters. And I love money, and I love what it can do for myself and for my family and for my friends and for my experiences. I love money. I just have a different relationship with money than most people now.
That's a big learning there. And what so going back to the founder's freedom, like there is this element of that people think they need external investment also because they think, going back to what you were saying, they think they need to be in 20 markets, with their products, or they need to be, they need to put it on that PowerPoint, pitch deck presentation that, my brand, my tequila is sold in 63 countries and my whiskey is sold in 15 plus countries and so on. But isn't there isn't it all also about the quest for, isn't it better to set up a business that makes 2 million and maybe grow to 5 million versus, going from 10 to 100 million dollars?
I mean, because I talk to people that are trying to do things like this. And so when it's even people that are just at the beginning, right? Like trying to decide what do I do? Or they're at 1 million and all of a sudden they want to expand to 9 markets with a bunch of different products or anything like that. The people that haven't made the jump yet that are I need 2 million in funding, or I can't, I won't be able to get into 9 markets. So I won't do it right now, or different things like that, are literally just attaching a reason to rationalize that they don't feel good enough or confident enough or have enough self-worth to try it and potentially it not work out. So all the reasons that and I found this out recently as I start to coach people with a different intention. Whenever somebody is talking about something outside of them, it's literally just a mirror for what they either lack or don't believe about themselves. So, I'll feel more successful when I make $30,000 a month, right? No, it's really just that you don't feel worthy or successful on your own, and you're searching for something outside of you to try to prove to yourself that you are. So there's examples like that. There can be examples in relationships. I'll get in a relationship when I find my wife or whatever. It's no, it's actually the opposite. It's a big flag, and I've recognized it with myself, and it's super powerful. Which is when you are ever searching for something outside of yourself, or you're ever looking for something outside of yourself, it's a hint for you that you have something that's going on with you. So it could be money, feeling successful or impressive, worrying about what other people think, trying caught up in how many likes you get or how many podcast downloads you get or how many people show up to the event that you do or things like that. It just becomes, it's a really interesting mirror. And I think that people call it self-awareness. I think that to me, it's a lot deeper than that. It's truly knowing yourself and being aware that your brain is running an operating system. Your body runs an operating system. And there's programs that run in your brain that don't serve you, and you didn't install those programs. They get installed and conditioned into you by the news, media, school, your parents, past relationships. Doesn't matter where it came from. You didn't put it there. Someone else put it there. And to realize that you have control of whether that programming runs in your body and your brain or not. I think that's super powerful. I think it's a level much higher than self-awareness.
Hmm. And what about the fact that the founders feel that they have to raise this much money, what you were saying before. Is there something also about about the fact that you kind of hide like I was making the example before about myself, the procrastination, no? So
Exactly.
is it is it also like, something like that about the fact that, I don't I feel I need that much money, but then probably it hides inefficiencies within my company, because if I can bootstrap it with 100K, just to say a number, but then I raise 5 million, because that gives me an allowance to try so many different things and not make choices, not make efficient and effective choices.
So let's talk about the business part next. But first, let's talk about procrastination. Okay. So, what is procrastination on paper? It is lack of action or delay of action. So it's actually not doing anything is an action, right? So it's procrastination is an action, right? Why do we take actions? We take actions based on our emotions and how we feel. And so when you're doing procrastination, you're doing it because you feel a certain way, and you feel a certain way because you think certain thoughts and beliefs. And so really isolating in, I'm procrastinating, which is probably because you feel shame, guilt, lack of confidence, fear, scarcity, some low vibration emotion, and then thinking, what is the thought that I'm thinking and then you have the thought, and then you have the circumstance of I'm trying to start a business and I need $2 million, right? Or I'm trying to raise $2 million. So then isolating the thought about what am I thinking right now that's causing the procrastination of, you know, I won't be, I want to do this, but I'm scared that I won't be successful. What will people think if I fail? I'm not smart enough to do this. Like you could go and I could make 100 different examples of potential thoughts that run in that. The only person that knows that is you, being the person that's listening, right? And your thought, it says, I'm not smart enough to do this. So your emotion is like shame or something in that area. And then your action is procrastination. And then your result is, I'm not smart enough for this because I didn't do anything. And then you just run the program over and over and over again. And so procrastination and lack of action becomes a huge hint. Negative emotions that you feel also are huge hints about what am I thinking or what am I doing that is driving this. Self-doubt is something that I didn't mention in there that also plays a huge role here. On the procrastination side, it's like use it as a hint. Negative emotions, use it as a hint. And you can literally go through that program that I just talked through. You have a circumstance. My business gets a new customer. I try to talk to an investor and they say they're not going to invest in me. Circumstances happen outside of you. Whatever happens then drives how you have a thought or a program that runs, which then drives how you feel, what actions that you take or lack of action. And then the result that you get, the result is just confirmation bias to what you already thought in the beginning. And when you follow that line, you realize that what I think and it's actually not what I think, it's what I believe. My beliefs create my reality. My beliefs drive how I feel, what I do, and the results that I get in my life. If you can fully internalize that, then it's an absolute power. And it's so true. It's like I'm living proof of that. Like I have totally shifted my entire life in the past 5 years through reprogramming my mind. And then on the business side, I talk a lot, one, about how I think venture capital is unnecessary. But two, how I think that if you just put it on paper and you have the two paths of I raise venture capital as a founder or I bootstrap as a founder, that from a financial standpoint, a freedom standpoint, a timeline, autonomy, I could go through a list of things that bootstrapping wins in every category. And the only category it doesn't win in is if you want to build Meta or, you know what I mean? Like a company like that. And honestly, there are plenty of examples of companies that build billion-dollar companies with no funding. Like we haven't lived enough of this time, which is a time where AI is dominant. You can build products super fast. Digital and social have totally evolved. We haven't lived enough time for big companies to get to that level without funding. It happen. It's already happened, and it will continue to happen, and it'll happen more than it used to. And so I've gone through some examples on my Instagram. I'll try to reiterate here let's talk about a financial standpoint. So let's say you're the founder of of a software startup or whatever, right? And you raise venture capital at a the valuation doesn't matter. You raise venture capital, you sell 20% of your business. Okay, so now, and you have a co-founder. So now you and the co-founder both own 40%, and your investors own 20%. And you go through another 2 rounds, and all of a sudden, your investors and the board own way more of the company than each of you individually do. Therefore, at some point, at even with the covenants and the warrants and other things that VC investors place on it, right when you sign that first check and you get that first check, you no longer own or control your business. They need to approve when you sell it. They can approve or disapprove how much you get paid. Likely, they can fire you whenever they decide or whenever they want. Like if you're not doing the right things or you're not hitting their growth expectations or the things that you put in your pitch deck or whatever. And like in one swoop, you've lost total autonomy. You will most likely be drive to burn money. To that being, for like a layman, is that like your company does not make a profit. You are instructed to lose money because you get this big lump of money, and then they think, oh, the faster we spend the money, the faster we'll grow, which is laughable. And when you follow that path, you literally just companies give you money, you give away part of your company, you waste the money based on their expectations, and you slowly give away your company for nothing. It's not for nothing, that would be overstated, but if you waste the money and you spend it irresponsibly, yeah, you're effectively giving away your company for almost nothing. And like if you don't make a profit, you can't take a distribution, which is the big point that I'm trying to make here. And so, in that path, you make a salary as the CEO, and then let's say it's $300,000 a year, let's just say 300. And then you have no additional, maybe you get a bonus if you like beat your plan or something like that. So you cap out your salary, let's say 500K if you crush your plan. And then you don't make any more money until you either sell secondary stock and raise another money and sell secondary stock, or you sell the entire company. And then if you take the bootstrap route, that you can make $300,000 whenever your company can afford it, which is probably like $1 million, $1.2 million. So then you match the salary that you had. And then every single quarter, as the company makes a profit, you can take a distribution of the profit should you want. Let's say a company's going to do 20% profit at $1 million. So all of a sudden now there's that $200,000 additional profit distribution. Now you're already matching what you would make in venture capital. And then as your business grows, that 20% keeps growing. And then as the business grows, the value of the business keeps growing, and you own 100% of it, or 50% if you have two co-founders instead of 40, 30, 10, less than that. And so if you just break it down from the financial rationale, excluding autonomy, control, being able to do what is right for you morally and ethically, because there will be misalignments at some point between those things, between investors and shareholder investors versus what you want to do as the business owner and the leader. And for all those reasons, I just push people to think about it, because I think like I've lived the life and of going in the bootstrapping route, and I learned a bunch of lessons. Trust me, I did not play it the best that I could have played it. I'm happy with how it worked out. It got me here, and I always think that's what matters. But like I could have played it a way better. If I go back and do it again, I do. I'm an entrepreneur. I'll play it differently, and I'll get there in half the amount of time and half the amount of problems and mistakes and things like that. And it just on paper works out better in what I think is every important category for an entrepreneur.
And this is super interesting because I mean I was I've been listening to many of your podcasts on this topic, and it's super interesting because it goes back to what you were saying about the self beliefs and like procrastination and all those things. Because very often what I see, for example, in my field with drinks companies, is that, for example, the founders may think they may come from, I don't know, they are lawyers or an accountant or whatever. They're not used at marketing and selling alcohol beverages, so they think that they need the money to actually hire a team of people to go out there and sell, for example. No, just to give you a stupid example. No, so sometimes it's also like the fact that, okay, like take your like go out there and actually like make it, so then and learn and do more small experiments to actually understand what it takes for your product to succeed, rather than actually having a bunch of money that you have raised and then you still don't know what to do with that because you still have no experience. You may have like some experienced people in the board that, from the VC or from the investment, the investors that gave you money, but ultimately maybe they even don't know how to do it, from the bottom up, as I as I like to call it. So it's a kind of like a vicious circle on how do you break that, uh, the vicious circle, so that actually you say, okay, I go the bootstrapping way, and probably I grow at a slower pace than anticipated on the pitch deck, but it's a totally different ball game.
I mean, this. I'm trying to come up with a good analogy here, but like what people want is they want to say, okay, I have an idea, and maybe I have a couple of skills that are somehow or experience that are somehow related to that idea, but there's these 10 other things that I don't have, and instead of figuring them out so I can be a complete entrepreneur in this space and like learning all the things that are necessary, I'm just going to try and take the shortcut. Shortcuts never work, by the way, and hire 10 people and hopefully they can figure it out for me. And let me be clear, once you have the skill and you know how to hire people and do it, then you can take that path. But as a first-time entrepreneur, if you don't know how to sell and you just hope that you can find someone that can sell and give it to them, you are incredibly vulnerable. You need to understand every single part of the business and be able to evaluate people's skills, understand enough to ask curious, smart, intelligent questions to get to the root of it, understand how to do all those things: legal, sales, marketing, product, distribution, partnerships, finance, you name it, like HR. You have to understand. It's not that you have to do everything, because that wouldn't work. And that's not, the freedom concept is not, you're not going to get there with that mindset. But you need to understand all of it. It would be like trying to be the head coach of a football team and only understanding how to play quarterback. Like, how are you going to coach the other 52 people on the team? How are you going to know whether they're good or not? How are you going to recruit them? Like, and so that's the thing, especially with first-time entrepreneurs, is that instead of doing the hard thing and learning all the different things about the football team or the business, let's just call it the business, that they say, oh, either they have a thought of like, I'm not good enough to do that, I'm not smart enough, or a different thought of this isn't worth my time. And it's like, how do you expect to build a $10 million business or a thriving business if you don't have enough time to learn how to sell your product?
This is the interesting thing, because I've discussed this with many founders, and sometimes like I'm getting I'm getting on discussions on LinkedIn, or when I'm writing my posts now, that sometimes people are saying, okay, I'm the distiller, I'm the guy or the girl in the distillery, so I'm making the product, I'm the creative part of the business. I don't know how to sell, but they expect then a distributor to do it for them, or a sales guy to do it for them. And this is the issues, that whether you have it in the team, whether you, at least your co-founder should be able to do that, and then you split responsibilities, because as you said, it's not that everybody should do everything, but if you don't know, then you will just be in your echo chamber of your other distilling friends saying that's a great product, and this will smash the market, and then nobody will actually bring it out of the door.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like sometimes is this circle of, when people do, and I'm one of them in a way, like that, like that, you like what you're doing because you love the products and you love the industry where you are, then you need to go out of the, get out of the comfort zone to actually test it and learn it, so that then you can fire yourself from that role by hiring someone else.
Yeah, or know that you are a distiller or a product developer and not an entrepreneur, like not a CEO. Like, that also works. I think a lot of people have been sold the idea that like, oh, I have to be an entrepreneur, and there are many people that try to that aren't. And it's like, I think and then that person could have, instead of trying to build this distillery business that they're sitting in there making liquor that no one wants to buy and they don't care to sell it because that's all they want to do, they could have been like the person making it at whatever brand and like been super successful working under a company that knows how to sell it and has great distribution, and they could do their art and make better stuff and have a ton of enjoyment doing that and being the lead product person for a great brand. Um, and so I think there's some level of like self-awareness too, that can be really helpful. I think a lot of people have been told they have to be an entrepreneur, when really they would be a great, you know, CPO or CTO or like some, a top 5 or top 7 executive instead of a entrepreneur of a business that goes nowhere.
And do you think there's also like something about, the narrative of what we are reading on, media and stuff, no? Because I mean, in industry media, like it's all about, if you take drinks industry media, it's all about this guy sold for this much, like this celebrity bought it for this much, and a big corporate bought it for this much. So like there is this kind of like tendency to think that the top 1%, going back to the beginning, of who kind of like makes it, you know, is the average rather than the 1%.
I mean, like at its highest level, I stopped consuming television media in 2013, and pretty much have removed like almost all media consumption in the past 6 months, because it's all conditioning and programming about mostly about materialism, and like it is unhealthy. It's not helpful for you. And they place that, right? So they tell, okay, look at this founder that built this company for, 15 years and then sold it to Constellation or someone for X amount of dollars, like hundreds of millions of dollars. Look at how great they are, right? But it didn't tell you that they raised so many different funding rounds that on paper, after taxes, they actually only made $3 million in their bank account. It doesn't tell you that 8 years in, they got divorced because they didn't take care of their other relationships and things like that. It doesn't tell you that they had to go through this process where they had to lay off a bunch of people when they didn't really need to because their investors needed to show profit for their PE firm. And then they had to do all these things that were ethically and morally misaligned with them because they had to do something for their investors because they didn't have control over their business. And you're over there looking like, wow, this person made $100 million. I wish I could have been them. And you don't know the whole fucking story because you never get the whole story. And that is the main reason why I don't consume any of the media anymore, because it glorifies all of the wrong things.
No, that's fantastic, and this is so true. I mean, and it's the same thing. Like, why like a lot of people ask me for referencing case studies, no, and they say, "Look, can you tell me about successful brands and so on?" And I said, I don't want to do that because I don't, either I have full disclosure and I cannot do that because I've got NDAs,
Mm-hmm.
or it would be like stuff that I've read online or people told me, and it's their stories. Is not, it may be true or may not be true. So it's like, until you actually go and do it yourself rather than listening to other people that tell you their story, like then it becomes very complicated to actually figure out what to do in the market, right?
Yeah, and this is like a little side note on like sales or recruiting or anything. But what I found is if you ever find yourself convincing someone to do something, then you should back away.
That's a great.
All the best
that's a-
people, all the best people that have become my business partner, all the best people that have joined my company as employees, all the best customers that we've had that are longest standing customers, all the best friendships that I've had. You don't have to convince someone about why you're going to be their good friend or why they should join and be the employee, or why that, like, when you're convincing, they're not the right people. That's the learning. It just goes back to the effortless concept, right? Like all the best things that have come to me, best customers and best people and business partners have all been effortless. And then instead, you go out and you put a job rec out and you get 500 submissions and you interview a bunch of people and and then you eventually get to a person thinking, oh, this is the right way to recruit someone because I'm being smart and diligent, and you hire someone that sucks. And it's like, I don't know. It's just like,
I mean, this goes back to what you taught me, about the fact, like the creating demand before capturing demand, no? Because ultimately, when you are doing it right, like the right people come to you. And I'm totally with you with that. And like when people ask me like, can you send me a presentation of why we should work with you? I was like, you contacted me because there's, there's so much out there of me speaking that everybody knows what I'm talking about, what I'm thinking, and what I believe to be
Yeah,
right, in the business. So if you wanted, listen to 100 episodes of my podcast, read all my LinkedIn posts, you will figure it out. Like, I don't have to
yeah.
make a PowerPoint, not because, not to play cool, but just to say, like if you still if you still haven't figured it out,
Then
then
yeah,
probably we shouldn't have this conversation.
we're probably not going to be a good fit right now. And then how much time do you save, and what are the other things that you can do with that energy when you're not convincing 10 people a week about something that they don't want to be convinced about? It's just like get out of my way and my time, and I can use my time for all these other things. And it just becomes really powerful. Again, it's just balancing the levels of freedom. And trust me, there was times where I spent 40 hours a week on sales calls. Every 30 minutes, new sales call. 50 calls a week. Five, you know, 40 of them are unnecessary. Talking to people that are just going through the motions, not interested in buying from you, going to ask you for a deck and a proposal and then never buy anything. And now, so what are those actions valuable? Are they giving you good insights about what to change? Are they creating space where you can do the right things for your business? No. Does it feel like you're being productive? Sure does. And you get caught in the trap of like, if I just do more, I'll get more.
Chris, thanks so much for your time. I'm aware of your time. I want to wrap this up, and I want to leave some space for you to let people know how to find you and how can they learn, especially from the B2B revenue vitals that is has been so beneficial for my learning journey.
Of course. So you can find my podcast online. The podcast is a little snippet. The pod is called B2B Revenue Vitals right now. It's going to go through a evolution. It'll be the third evolution in my podcast series. So stay tuned for that. And then you can also find me on Instagram and LinkedIn with the handle Chris Walker 171. And look forward to. And then if you love this episode, you have some questions, shoot me a DM on either of those platforms, and I would be happy to chat.
Fantastic. So thanks so much, Chris. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Chris. Great episode.